Demas Nwoko, the man who built with earth, light, and silence. Okay, we have a story today that is going to fundamentally challenge everything you might have been taught about modern architecture. For the young African students and design thinkers watching today, I really need you to listen closely because this explainer, it isn't just a biography, it's an argument. It's a complete reclamation of a legacy that belongs to you. See, long before sustainability became this trendy buzzword, and way before architects were quoting passive cooling stats from their sleek boardroom presentations, there was a man who was already building the future. He was doing it in clay, he was doing it in silence, and he was doing it with absolute dignity. Today we're diving into the unparalleled genius of Demas Nwoko.
Which brings us right off the bat to a deeply uncomfortable but absolutely necessary question. Why is Africa's greatest architectural mind entirely missing from your syllabus? I mean, really think about it. We are talking about a pioneer who is engineering sustainable, climate-responsive structures decades ahead of the rest of the world. He was doing what today's elite firms are desperately trying to figure out, and yet institutional academia has practically erased him. He's not in your textbooks. He's for sure not the subject of your studio case studies. And look, this wasn't an accident. It is an omission, and it's one that we are going to correct right now together.
So to truly understand the genius, we've got to start with the roots. Demas Nwoko was born in 1935 in Ipole, in Kwara State, Nigeria. His education didn't begin in some Western lecture hall. It began in his own backyard. Growing up, he watched how traditional homes in his community managed to stay remarkably cool without a single air conditioning unit in sight. He noticed how courtyards naturally carried the air and facilitated conversation. He watched how earth walls literally breathed with the climate rather than constantly fighting against it. That early childhood observation didn't just fade away as he grew up. It became his lifelong compass.
And that brilliantly illustrates the foundation of his entire design philosophy. On one hand, you have imported theory, that deeply flawed idea that solutions have to be shipped in from colder, entirely different climates. And then you have lived experience. Demas Nwoko's genius did not come from foreign textbooks. It came from an intimate, lived understanding of his own environment. He recognized that the local earth, the movement of the sun, and the direction of the wind, those were all the materials he actually needed. He wasn't interested in imposing a structure onto the land. He was coaxing a structure out of it.
Let's track how this shaped his formal journey. By the 1960s, Nwoko was studying architecture at the University of Ife, making him part of one of the very first generations of formally trained Nigerian architects. Later on, he traveled to London to study art. But, and this is a really crucial point you have to understand about his time in Europe, he didn't go there to copy. He went there to compare. He absorbed what the West had to offer, analyzed it against what he already knew from Owopole, and he quickly realized that simply importing European modernism to Africa was fundamentally flawed.
So, he returns home and he's carrying this single burning question. What does Nigeria truly need? Now, that isn't just an architectural question, it's a profound cultural and societal one. This single question shaped his entire destiny. It pushed him to become far more than just a draftsman. He became a true polymath, an architect, an artist, a sculptor, and eventually a Benedictine oblate. He became a man utterly convinced that design has to serve three masters: culture, climate, and conscience.
The Dominican Monastery, a masterpiece in Ibadan, built in 1976.
Okay, I want you to mentally walk into this space with me for a second. Imagine leaving the blazing heat of a Nigerian afternoon and stepping into a cavernous, vaulted interior. Immediately, you are hit by a wave of cool air. And what is completely absent from this design? There's no imported glass baking in the sun, no expensive imported steel frame trying to hold up a structure that doesn't even belong there, and absolutely no AC. Instead, just thick laterite walls, meticulously designed vaulted roofs, and highly engineered natural airflow. This building proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that true modernism and true comfort do not require imported artificial energy-draining solutions.
So, how does it actually work? Let's break down Nwoko's passive cooling system, because it's essentially a brilliant breathing machine. Step 1, those thick laterite earth walls act as a thermal mass. They absorb the intense heat of the day so it never even reaches the interior. Step 2, since hot air naturally rises, Nwoko designed high vents that continuously release that trapped hot air right out of the building. Step 3, perfectly placed courtyards act like lungs, catching the cool night breezes and drawing them straight through the corridors. He literally orchestrated the wind.
And the aesthetics? Just as intentional as the engineering. The sweeping, dramatic vaulted roofs of the monastery weren't pulled from some European cathedral.
They were directly inspired by indigenous Igbo, Udo, and Nupe earth structures. This is a massive distinction you need to make in your own work. This is not vernacular nostalgia. Nwoko wasn't building some theme park of the past. This is high intelligence rooted firmly in place. It is a functional cultural innovation that elevates local tradition to absolute modernity. And the result of all this brilliant engineering? 6 to 8 degrees. The Dominican Monastery naturally, effortlessly, stays 6 to 8 degrees Celsius cooler than the blazing heat outside. Day after day, year after year. No electricity required, no heavy machinery to maintain, just earth, light, and silence working in perfect, intelligent harmony. That is the gold standard of sustainable design, and he achieved it nearly 50 years ago. Which leads us to the institutional critique, the silence of the syllabus. Knowing all of this kind of forces us to confront a harsh reality, doesn't it? For all the design thinkers and architecture students watching this, you really have to ask yourselves why you are just learning the depth of this man's genius right now. The educational systems you are literally paying to train you have completely failed to teach this legacy. Listen to the weight of Demas Nwoko's own words here. We are heirs of traditions we do not know. Honestly, if there is one line from this explainer that you write down and carry with you into every studio, every brainstorm, and every site visit for the rest of your career, let it be this one. We have inherited a massive, brilliant library of indigenous architectural knowledge, but the door to that library was kept locked. And who exactly locked that door? Well, look at what the syllabus champions. We are all taught the Western giants. We get Mies van der Rohe, we get Le Corbusier, Frank Lloyd Wright. Their names are etched into our minds as the undisputed kings of modernism. But the missing master? Demas Nwoko, a globally honored African pioneer who practically invented localized sustainable design, gets silence. No main lecture, no mandatory case study. That is a massive institutional failure.
And in that silence, an insidious lie is being taught to you. The lie is this: greatness, true modernity, and valid intelligence must come from far away. It must come from the global north. It has to be imported. But the truth? The undeniable truth proven by those breathing walls in Ibadan is that greatness can rise right out of the laterite under our feet. Greatness can be local. Greatness is already here.
The Sovereign Student Standard, Reclaiming Modernism.
So, now that the silence is broken, the responsibility falls to you. You are the next generation of builders, thinkers, and creators. You have the power to demand this knowledge and to weave it into everything you create moving forward. Because Nwoko's work teaches us one undeniable lesson: sustainability is not a gadget. It's not a solar panel slapped onto a poorly designed glass box. It's not some wildly expensive HVAC system meant to fight a climate you completely ignored during the drafting phase. No, true design is done with your eyes wide open. It means utilizing the path of the sun. It means deeply respecting the soil you are building on. It means stepping back and actually letting your buildings breathe.
To sum up the ultimate philosophy we've explored today, architecture is far more than just form or an aesthetic ego trip. Architecture is memory. It carries the cultural DNA of a people. Architecture is responsibility. It has to care for the people inside it and the environment around it. And architecture is lived experience. It absolutely must make sense for the bodies and the climate that interact with it every single day. Now, we are definitely going to continue uncovering this hidden history. Next week, we'll be exploring the incredible story of Olawale Olomuyiwa, the man who designed the Federal Palace Hotel. And spoiler alert, he didn't do it by looking at photos of Dubai. He did it by sitting quietly and listening to the Lagos breeze. You really won't want to miss that explainer. But for now, as we wrap up our time with Demas Nwoko, I want you to just look at your own environment. Look at the earth right outside your window. Modernism does not have to be a foreign concept imported in shipping containers. It can be deeply contextual. It can be shaded. It can respect the fierce African sun rather than arrogantly trying to fight it. Modernism can be ours. Actually, scratch that. It has been ours all along. We just had to know where to look. Take that pride, take that knowledge, and go build something that breathes. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Stay curious, stay sovereign, and I will see you next time.